Today we're going to go through a little bit about the basic layouts of Ableton Live, different faces and different ways that we can use them. And yeah, I've got here the project from last time, from the first session. So we're not going to actually compose stuff today. So I just want to, basically I had some requests about more basic tutorials and sessions, whereas last time we went quite into depth in some things and some people got a bit lost. So today hopefully we'll get the more basic stuff out of the way, so next time we can go more in depth. So basically Ableton Live, like any other DAW, will it's based on, you've got an arrangement view, so basically where things run from left to right. So say for example this these drums that are in MIDI, if I press play we can hear them running from left to right. Last time we were using the session view, which is a little bit different. So basically the way Ableton works is on this side on the left here we have the browser, which is basically where you can access all your different sounds, all your different synths, and if you have custom folders like I do, you can access them here as well. So in sounds you'll just have a range of different sounds. They're all mixed with in between samples, like the built-in samples and also the built-in synths. On drums you've got a range of different drum kits that you can choose from. So basically if you just hover your mouse, click once every drum kit, you'll be able to listen to the preview. Instruments, this is where we have all the sound synthesis part of Live. So you've got operator, which we used last time, wavetable. Anyway, you have a range of different synths to choose from. And then audio effects, obviously effects for audio channels or for things that are already in audio. MIDI effects that will affect MIDI notes or clips before they go into your MIDI instruments. Max for Live, which is an extension for basically visual programming of different devices for Live. It's a very, very, very interesting platform. And then here you have your plugins. So VST plugins, in my case, the whole list over there. So these are third-party either synths or audio effects that you can use within Live. And that's pretty much it. Here you have all the basic library of samples for Live. So this is where you choose and pick the sounds that you're going to use. Let's say your sound palette, kind of. Over here is your main window view. So if you're in arrangement mode, you'll see the arrangement. If you hit tab, you'll go over to session view. Down here, just at the bottom of your screen, is the device or clip view. So whenever we click on a channel, whether we're in arranging mode or session view, it'll load basically whatever is on that channel. So say for example this channel is my drums channel. It's now loaded my drum rack, which is Live's drum machine. So then I'd be able to basically edit the different sounds within my drum rack for this channel. If I go on pad, so we're using an operator synth, so that's now shown down here where we can edit the synth and the effects that come after it. If, however, we click on a clip, the clip will be loaded down here. And then we can drag this up and down the dividing little wall so we can edit the clip better, especially if you have small screens. This can come in quite handy. Then on the left here you have this little arrow that's basically a very helpful little guy that will tell you what every function is when you hover your mouse over them. So say I don't know what this is a clip. So it tells me what a clip does. I don't always leave it open, but it's definitely a good shout to leave it open if you are still starting on the software. I think in terms of layout, that's more or less it. On top here we have the kind of universal controls for tempo. So we're at 120 BPM. We've got a 4x4 time signature. This is our metronome that you can turn on and off. And this is the global quantization. So the way this works is if you're in session view, and say you're playing clips together. Let's just zero out everything else. So I want to play these 3 clips together. I just select them together and hit enter. So the minute I play this one, it will hold until the next bar to actually drop the clip in, because my global quantization is set to 1 bar. If I set that to 4 bars, it will now hold it for 4 bars. So I'll click it now. See, it's now going on and off. Now it's gone on. So it was always going to wait for that timing, whatever you set there, to play clips or to stop clips. I usually leave it at 1. If you're doing a live set, it might be interesting to leave it at 2 or 4, so you've got your transitions working properly. But yeah, that's just a question of how you want to use it. So up here we have the global controls for play, stop, and record. Here you have your bar counts, basically which bar you're in, which beat, and so on and so forth. And up here you have the loop controls for the arrangement view. So currently I've set this loop in the arrangement. If I take that off and I play from here, you'll see it won't loop. So it's just finished. The reason it was looping at the beginning of the video is because I left it like this. Just as waiting for you guys, so it's going to go back. This can be quite useful when you're, say, recording a specific part for an instrument or just a vocal or whatever, and you want to overdub, you could do that. Or if you just want to work on top of a loop, you could use this function. So on the main window, and let's go back to session view. So here you have your channels, right? And your clips that are in this area. Here you have your inputs and outputs for each channel, your sends and returns, and your mixer controls in terms of volume, mute, solo, and all that. So the great thing about Ableton is session view, because it does like, I don't know if any of you were around last time, but we were only basically working within the session view. I did this arrangement afterwards. So we were able to create a full track, well, not a full track, but an idea of a track using only clips, and then basically playing them in different orders to create different moments. So I play these 4. I can then add maybe these guys. And then say I want to create a break. Whenever I click on empty clips and play them, they'll stop the clips that are playing on that channel. So now I've created a break. So yeah, the function of doing that on the go, basically, and doing it freely is something that's quite exclusive to live, and it's very exclusive to the session view. So this can come in very, very handy when you're, say, composing different parts for each instrument. You just lay them down like we did here. So we've got one kick, which is the full kick, and then one kick, which is the breaks kick. And you can alternate between them however you like. to create possible different arrangements for your track. So this is very, very, very cool about Ableton. It's kind of what differentiates it from all other DAW softwares. Right, so moving forward, if we're talking about the main view here, I would say the next thing to talk about is clips themselves. So within clips, we could have either MIDI information or audio information. So what's MIDI and what's audio? MIDI is basically a language that carries a number of different information factors, like note on a keyboard, note duration, note strength or velocity, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like the music that's written, but in a digital way. So over here on my bass line, I've got a load of C's, C1s. So if I change that to G, that will obviously change the note that's been played. Whereas, so I'm not going to go too much into depth about MIDI, but it's basically a notation language for digital music. So, well, not necessarily digital, but electronically generated. So, if we're talking about audio, for example, so whenever we click on a clip, we'll have our clip view down here. This is a MIDI clip. As you can see, the MIDI notes are down here. If we go on an audio clip, like this guy here, this is an audio signal. It still shows down here, but it's not MIDI. It's pre-recorded audio. So that means I could edit it in terms of audio effects and even pitch and time, but I couldn't really reposition the notes on this instrument because they're already recorded into audio. So that's the main difference at this point of working with MIDI or audio. I would always say it's good to work with both because you create different textures and different grooves. So this is a Brazilian instrument called the berimbau that I recorded in my home studio in Brazil a while ago, and it's been recorded and then re-recorded with effects. It creates a more organic kind of vibe to the whole track, which is very electronic at the moment. I think everything else we're working on here is MIDI. Let's just check. Yeah, see, those are MIDI chords. Those are MIDI chords. Those are also MIDI. The bass is MIDI. Even the percussion is MIDI. And the drums and kicks are MIDI. So that's the only kind of audio track that we're working with at the moment. So that's the main difference between MIDI and audio. Moving forward, if we're going to talk about the main window, I'd say the next thing to talk about is the channel routing. So on the right here, we've got an I and O symbol. That's basically in, out. Once you click that, it opens up the routing for each channel. So you've got two different types of channels in Ableton that are basically either it's going to be a MIDI channel or an audio channel. So if we're talking about a MIDI channel, the information in the clips will be MIDI and the routing will be MIDI. If we're talking about audio, the information will be audio and the routing will be audio. So the differences are, say for example, on this synth here, I'm now playing on my keyboard different notes, right? You can even see them here on the MIDI on the clip view, and it's basically transforming those notes through this synth into audio. Therefore, the MIDI routing on the channel will be based on whatever MIDI input devices you have plugged into your computer. So for example, I've got push here. I've got my sound card, which also has a MIDI input. I've got the computer keyboard, and my launch key. So if I change this to launch key, I can no longer, I'm pressing my push down, nothing's happening. I'd have to play it on, ooh, let's go on that, on my launch key. See, now I'm playing my launch key. So this is basically where it's getting the signal from. If you leave it in all ins, you can play it on both, like that. The monitoring of the channel. Then you've got something here that's like MIDI channels. MIDI is divided into up to 16 channels. You don't really have to mess around with that unless you're doing like a really complex analog setup. You got the monitoring, which is basically if it's auto, it'll receive the notes if the channel is armed, which is this button down here. It's like a record button for the channel. So if I turn that off, or I turn another channel on, for example, it will automatically turn that off. I won't get any signal into this channel anymore because it's on auto. If it's on in, I'll still get signal, even though this is not armed. Usually I leave this on auto and leave whatever channel I'm recording for armed. And then this is the output of the channel that will basically be in audio, because if we have MIDI going in and then through all this path here of, in this case operator, but any synth or MIDI instrument, and then I've got my effects here, and then that comes out in audio, as you can see here. That's the output, which is then transported to here and then goes into the master channel, which is what I've got here selected. That's automatic. But say you wanted, for example, to have a parallel channel of this guy to have a different effect on it. So I would say that this guy would then collect its audio from pad. So now I've got I've basically got the audio coming in over here as well. You can't hear it because it's off. If I turn it into auto, there you go. You've duplicated the signal, essentially. But we're not going to do that now. So this is where basically your signal is going to. Usually it's going to be master. If you've grouped channels by simply selecting them and hitting Command G or Control G if you're on Windows, you're going to create a group. So these channels here, the sub and the bass, are in a group. So they're automatically set to audio 2 bass group. And then this bass group will then send the audio to our master channel. It's basically like cables. If you think about it as if you had like a big sound mixer and you have to plug in the cable for the sound to come out, that's basically what this stuff is. So the next step here would be the sends. Again, on the right here, if you can't see it on your screen, if you've got live open, it's probably because it's not pressed. So you press S and the sends will come up. So this is basically a parallel way of treating audio. On the right here, you should have A and B, which are like the default send return channels on Ableton, which then means if I go on to this guy, let's change the sound a bit. So I've already got this guy sending some of its signal to B, which in this case, if I click on that, is a delay. I'm not going to go into the effects themselves, but yeah, the concept of it is that we're now sending from this instrument. So if we don't send anything, we have it dry, it goes straight to the master channel. If we decide to send it, it's now become extremely reverbed because I've sent it to reverb, or I can send it to the delay. So that's basically sending some of my audio from here, from this channel, in parallel to the master channel. It's also going to my send channels, and then from my send channels it will go to the master channel. This is all like, it can get quite confusing, I know, but it's good to understand the way it works, because once you start using it, you could have, like, if I insert, so by right clicking here, I insert another return track and another one and another one and another one, and then so on and so forth. You've now got A, B, C, D. I've seen projects with like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, 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 blah. And because people want to use different effects on different return channels. So it's good to know exactly what they do, because when your project gets complex, you'll know what you're doing. Cool. So next up would be the mixer section. So sometimes when you open Live, you'll see your mixer section either like that or like that. It's quite frustrating because you can't really see what's going on. See, look, I really can't see what's going on here. So if you drag it up, even like that's even worse. It's good if you're doing a live set sometimes and you don't really want to see the exact values. But for production, you might want to pull this guy up 1 and 2, and then you're able to see, basically, this is your fader for that channel. This is your meter, and this is the level at which your fader is. So if you open up even more, if you've got a big screen, you'll be able to realize that you've got the numbers here. So it starts at minus infinite dB, and it finishes at 0, and then you've got the clipping up to 6 dB. And you can see that this guy here is probably showing us where the peak volume of this channel is hitting around minus 18 dB, which is then represented by the little 2 dots that stay there. So that would be the light green volume would basically be, so on my voice here you can see that as well. The light green volume would be the mean, like the RMS volume of it, and then this would be the peak volume. So if you have this brought up all the way to there, you'll probably be able to see the meter and which level your fader is actually at. So moving forward here, we've got the panning of each channel, so left, right. And then here, I can turn the channel on and off completely. Solo function. So when I solo that, you can't hear my voice because my voice is running through this guy here at the moment. So when you can't hear anything. Exactly. And then last but not least, the arm button that we talked about before. So if you want to record, whether it be MIDI or audio, you have to have this on. Okay, so I'll give you an example of the audio routing by simply recording. So we've got this going on here at the moment. I'll just take some of this stuff off. It's a bit annoying. So I'll just record some percussion. I've got my mic here set up into this channel. So as you can see, audio from, I've now selected external in, which is basically my sound card. And my sound card has 4 channels. My mic is plugged into the first one, and you can see the audio coming in through there. Now, I'm going to click auto, and now you can probably hear my voice twice because it's coming in through both channels. The minute I hit record here on a new empty clip, I'm going to do a little bit of this guy here, the little shaker. So I'm just going to record a little bit of the shaker so you can see how it works. Cool. That was completely out of tempo because I've got a high latency on my sound card, but we can correct it. So basically, now we've recorded this into an audio loop, which if I click the clip, it will show me down here exactly what was recorded. So on the clip view, when we open a audio or MIDI clip, this is our loop bar. So that's how big our loop is. Over here, we've got the sample settings, which is basically if I want to transpose it or if I want to turn the volume up or down for the sample, and the warping button. So warping basically is a process that will take whatever you have here and try to read the transients on that audio. As you can see here, these are transients. It's where it can really pick up rhythm. So if I say, I've obviously recorded at 120 because we are at 120. If say I want to put that into tempo, I could use the quantization setting to do that. So if I right click within the clip view here, I've got quantize and quantize settings. What I want to do is quantize settings, and I want to think that we're working on a 1/16th tempo kind of bass, and then I'll tell it how much to warp. Because we're talking about a percussion loop that has quite a bit of naturality to it, I don't want to take much of that away. So I wouldn't really quantize it completely. I would basically quantize it, say, to 60%. And now it's picked up all the transients. First of all, before we do that, let's find where number 1 is. Okay, so I basically pull that to this guy here, 1.2. I'll set my loop to start at 1.2, and then I'm going to pull this guy here, which is probably the last one, to 3. I will see, as you can see, the transients are now nearer to the actual grid. Cool, that's almost there. So what I need to do now is pull the end of my loop towards here. And basically what we want is to create a 2-bar loop. And then, there we go. And then at this point, we could just tell it to quantize at this setting and see what happens. We could even do that. So I've now made it a 1-bar loop that's working quite correctly with the timing of the rest of the track. Cool. And that's how I would go about recording, say, my own little percussion or something of the sorts. Cool. Now, I think in terms of the basics of live, that's pretty much it. So the way I would go about, and again, we did this last time, so we started from scratch and we started writing MIDI clips and then choosing audio clips to loop and all that stuff. So what we could do at this point, I would say, is maybe instead of recording an audio loop, if I want to choose an audio loop from my library. So again, whenever I'm choosing sounds, I'm here on the left on the browser. Let's say we want something. Where's that? Oh, there we go. This is really good. Like some percussion. How can I have a cajon? Cool. So I'll just drag that loop onto there. And if we want more loops, we could choose and basically just duplicate the channel for all your percussions. So I'll have that there. I'll have maybe 2 variations of it. Again, thinking of different moments for the track. Maybe some congas. Yeah, there we go. Duplicate that again. And put the congas there. Cool. So now we would basically take a listen to this. And as you can see, so we've got the audio loop going on here. And as was the case with my recording, this guy's a little bit off as well. So I might want to quantize it. I might not. It really just depends on what effect you want. But if you do want to quantize it, again, quantize settings, boom. You see it all immediately goes a little bit more into grid. Now say for example, I don't like the whole loop of this guy. So we could use, within the clip view, we can use a thing called automations. So once we've talked a little bit about warping and this function. So automations is this little guy here. So that would open up envelopes, and the simplest one I can show you is the volume one. So instead of controlling the mixer, so basically an envelope can control anything within Ableton or within that channel. Instead of controlling the mixer, you want to control the clip, because you don't want automations on your mixer every time you change clips. So what I would do here is basically use the clip envelopes volume, right? And then I'll choose my draw tool here and say I only want a few of these hits. So I'll take these out. Bam. And immediately you've got a different line of percussion. And then obviously I would go ahead and make these guys a little bit smoother. So if you deselect the pencil tool, you could then pull the automation points backwards and forwards. Yeah, making a little, almost like a little fade in, fade out. There you go. That'll be quite smooth now. So now I've got this guy, and I'd probably rename it as Cajon 1. For renaming stuff, you either right click and hit rename, or you do Command R or Control R on top of anything that you are. It works for channels as well. This would be maybe the Cajon full, because I haven't messed with it. And then we do the same thing for these guys. So this is a Brazilian instrument, pandeiro. Right. So I just play it. So again, It's not exactly in the grid. So I could quantize it with, again, my 60% setting because I don't want to lose all the groove. Maybe I want to lose even less. So boom. Cool. And let's check out this one. All right, for this example, we use this one. And then I'll show you another little cool function, which is basically the warping mode for that sample. So we've got complex. Sorry, I don't know if it's still online, guys. So we've got complex, which is basically the least loss of information. And then for this example, I'm going to use beat, which basically it will concentrate on the transients. It's made for drums and for like high dynamics. So basically, if we put it on transients, beats and then transients, this is the loop mode for the transient. So we're going to set it to play pause. And then this is the envelope length for this. So say this guy is a little bit too full, like there's quite a lot going on. So I might want to make it a bit simpler. Shorter sounds. And then use what we did before with the clip automation volume. So maybe this one we could do one off, one on, one off. Yeah, create a pause, a different groove, something like that. So duplicate the clip. We'll call this panned 1, and then we'll call this panned 2. Very important to always rename your stuff on the way, rename your channels, rename your clips, because, and I'm going to get into this in a moment, once you start getting all this these pieces and putting them together and translating them into an arrangement, you're gonna want to see on the clips, like you can see here, what is what basically. So I know that this is Chocale Sur. I know that this is drums 3, this is kick break, this is kick full, and that just makes it a whole lot easier for you to arrange the track when you come to that point. So again, one more step here. Let's go on to this percussion, the congas. Yeah, I might not even do anything with this. It sounded pretty good. So I'll just delete this one. I'm going to use this one, call it conga. It's got a bit of variation in it already. It has a little bit, it is a little bit off the beat. So when I don't want to fix the whole loop with the quantization, what I could do is a manual quantization. So I could just draw a point here where I know it's in time. See, bum, bum, bum. And then I'll come over to where I know it's out of time, which is basically here. Double click it and pull it in. Everything will kind of slide into time, but you'll still keep the groove. kick. Cool. So as you can see, this kind of works. Another cool little trick for the percussion group, if you're talking about loops, right? You might want to basically, before you go over to the arrangement view, you might want to organize these in a way that they work together. So if I'm going to group them, right, Command G. So I'm going to call this perk group. I would like them to work well together, but also I would like to have moments where I have the individual elements. So a way to do that is basically, if you organize lines or scenes, as we call them in live, each line here is a scene. So if I hit play here, it'll play everything on that line. We're not going to do that for the global controls, but we are going to do that for the group. So I might say I want one of these to play on its own. So when I play the group, it'll only play that line. And then I might say I want one of these with the cajon, but without the conga. And so on and so forth. I might want one with these guys, with all of them, say, but without this one. And I might want to have a break with only these two. And then I might want to have a drop with everything. And I'm literally I'm duplicating the clip. So if you say Command D, it duplicates it. Okay. So then another step for that would maybe be, once you close the group, you won't be able to know what's what. So you might want to color them differently. So different tones of, similar colors. Then we go, add right click, and you've got the color palette. Works really well. That's pretty similar. I go green, and then this one. So when you close it now, boom, you know that they are different moments. So you could play around with that. Going forward, I am gonna take away all these elements, leave drums only and bass. Cool. Let's concentrate on these first 5 guys here. So I'm now going to show you how to translate this. So once let's say you've gotten to this point, but you've actually got a whole full track, right? With say like 15 channels, loads of different moments, loads of different automations going on within your clips. And you say, okay, I want this to come to the arrangement. So I'm just going to click over here to get it out of whatever we had before. Delete everything else. Actually, I'll delete everything because I've got this saved. So I delete everything. I don't want it to loop. If you have a push or a launch pad or any controller that allows you to play pads, it can be really cool to do that at this moment, when you want to translate whatever you have here into an arrangement, because you could just basically play the pads and it'll record whatever you're playing. So at this point, what I'll do is basically zero out everything. I pressing this. So the little square at the bottom of each channel stops any playing clips. This little square stops all playing clips, so everything's stopped at the moment. I'm just going to switch these channels off because we're not going to use them. And so let's go about recording a little arrangement for this. So I'm just going to hit record. It's going to give me the metronome, and now it's recording. So I'll start with this kick, maybe this. And as you can see, it's now actively recording it's translating my MIDI clips into my arrangement. Let's go. And if you want to play multiple clips at once, you can literally just click on whatever you want to play, press Control or Command if you're on Mac, and select multiple clips. So even the empty ones, I want to stop this channel, so I'm going to stop it by clicking an empty one. So if I select everything I want to play, and then hit enter, 1, 2, 3, and now recording everything onto here. Again, by clicking the empty parts, you stop the clips. And there we go. So it's still recording because I haven't hit stop, but there's now nothing going on because I've stopped all my clips. So I can hit spacebar or stop. And as you'll see now, it's gone, it's all here, but we can't really hear it, because we've still got, so whenever this button is orange, that means that your session view is active and your arrangement view is inactive. So the way to fix that is just clicking that, and now you are not playing session view, you are playing arrangement view. Right. So I think for today, that's more or less it. If anyone has questions, I'm about to set up a Zoom call just at the end of the session. I'm going to post it here for Q&A. I also do private sessions. If anyone's interested, let me know. And that's it. I'll be posting the project here as an example, just on the event, if anyone's interested in having that as an example of the work. And yeah, thank you guys all for coming. As you can see, sorry, before we go, as you can see now, it's all gone onto the arrangement, and all the MIDI clips are here. The group is here with the audio loops. They're all named properly, so I know which one's which. And then I just go about editing this in the best way I can. We can do that maybe next session, next week. Please let me know what you guys are interested in as well. And yeah, thanks a lot. And see you guys next week. Let me just invite everyone here. Here is the Zoom. Cool. Cool. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much. I'll be waiting for you on Zoom if anyone would like to have a chat. And thanks a lot. See you next week.